Hi, hello, and welcome back to PYCAST. I know it is not Tuesday. I apologize for that. I have sinus problems and I had a horrible bunch of sinus pressure that created a headache that progressively got stronger as the day went on. I had woken up to this and it was borderline migraine before 5 p.m. and I just wasn't able to get on and stream as I would normally, so I had to delay it for today instead. So welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, hi, hello, welcome. How are you doing? I am Pyretta Blaze, and I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the Dexter New Blood penultimate episode. Okay, now if you are new here and you've never been here before, you need to know that there is going to be a ton of spoilers because I'm going to literally go through all the scenes step by step. And I've got some comments, want to break down a little bit, and then give some predictions. Which I've already made some accurate predictions, so let's see how I do for what I feel is going to be the next episode. Let me adjust my camera height though, that is going to drive me a little bonkers. There it goes. Okay, so hi, hello. Let me get my notes pulled up and all my chats. But yeah, so I'd had that headache and couldn't get on. Now I'm back. Today is a hard day in general, so I will not be streaming later this evening. It's the 1-year anniversary of my father's passing, and I have some friends that have some serious concerns, so I'm going to just like pray on that and take the rest of the evening to be peaceful rather than get on and game. So I am here doing the live video podcast, but you will normally see me here doing it on Tuesdays. I understand that yes, it is Wednesday. My deepest, sincerest apologies for having put it off a day. Some of you may know it has not been an easy year or 370 days, but most recently I lost my beloved little dog Raven, so it's just been hard, and I've been crying a lot, and that irritates my sinuses more. Like my eyes burn, my airway is just, it feels like I've been in a pool for way too long, and so I'm gonna try and make it through this. If I have any voice cracking or anything like that, I'm fine. It's just allergy related. I don't have any major illness or anything. Just severe seasonal allergies, and even though it is January, dandelions are blooming here in the south. Wonderful. So the last time we saw our beloved Dexter, you gotta remember he had been kidnapped. Harrison was picked up by Kurt. The Logan had told Angela about the druggie that was responsible by selling the drugs for Harrison's overdose, and how he pulled up and Dexter was beating the hell out of him. So she needs to investigate into that. She's been tinkering around with the Molly Parker Mary fucking Kill podcast, specifically regarding the Bay Harbor Butcher and how Dexter's from the same area. She's trying to start to piece things together. She's trying to do a little detective work. Dexter breaks free from his captor, ends up being the ultimate predator, leading him through the summer camp, gets him there, was able to set it up to where he could then have the advantage, kills the lackey of Kurt's, after he finds out first that Kurt has Harrison. So then Dexter goes off to save him. When we last saw them, they were just being reunited after Kurt was basically gonna gun Harrison down. He had him in his sights. He had it locked on. Why he has the optic on in shooting people at such close range is beyond me, because that is, you're not gonna see nothing. So too close. Doesn't work that way. But other than that, this episode coming up that I'm going to touch on is my favorite so far of New Blood. It is my favorite. So Dexter was in the hairy situation of he pulls up just in the nick of time to chase and scare off Kurt before he shoots Harrison. They are, hugging on one another in the truck, and they're going home. And that's where we're left off. So Angela's got some, deep diving she's doing into Dexter, much like myself. And, Dexter's got this whole Kurt's trying to kill him thing going on. So very interesting. So the new episode from Sunday, here's now your final and last spoiler alert. If you have not yet seen this episode and do not want a spoiler, leave now, come back later. It's fine. It's okay. Pause this, whatever, come back. It's fine. It's okay. If you don't mind spoilers, then stay and enjoy. Or if you're already caught up on the episode, just pop open a snack, have a nice little drink, and we'll get through this one. Because I've got some good ideas on how this is all going to end. So we open Sunday night's episode with Mr. Wiggles' Playland. Dexter's discussing with Harrison while we are seeing flashbacks of Dexter recanting this time. He's going on and explaining how Dexter's dark passenger has led him to see if Mr. Wiggles fits the code. But then we also get to see Deb, and she's telling Dex that, if something's too much, he's going too far. She's trying to, reel him in, get him to dial it back some. And she's directing him and guiding him through this discussion as he's light-footedly walking on eggshells, divulging to his son that he's the Bay Harbor Butcher, that he's a serial killer. So she's there to help guide him because she's trying to protect him from permanently messing up Harrison. Like, that's her concern. So during the scene, there's going to be a little bit of back and forth because, hopefully in Deb's mind, well, really Dexter's mind, she's going to prevent him from fucking all this up. And the back and forth that you're going to see in the scenes or have seen in the scenes is phenomenal. There's some fourth wall breaking. It's such a good episode. So Dexter is saying how the justice system is, it's broken. It's not taking care of those that prey upon others, and that's just not an option for him. He doesn't want to follow society's rules, but that doesn't mean that there aren't rules that need to be followed, that he follows, and that should be followed. When the dark passenger calls, Harrison asks what the dark passenger is, and Dexter says it's the name that he gave his calling that he has. And this is where we see Deb, and she's sitting there and she's saying, be careful. We've got this beautiful living room scene. There's a fire crackling. Harrison's sitting on the hearth. Dexter is sitting on the corner of the coffee table furthest from Harrison, and Deb is sitting on the coffee table corner when she appears that is opposite of that. So Dexter goes on to explain a little bit more about his dark passenger. Of course, Dexter and those of us that are beyond the fourth wall. Let me explain fourth wall for those who don't know. Fourth wall is us, the viewers. In movies, so just film, TV, this video format, media, you do not want to break fourth wall. It's usually just a big no-no. It's very rare that it's done. So when it is done, it needs to be very well done. And frankly, this episode, there were several times where they break fourth wall, and it was actually fantastic. Breaking fourth wall is where the characters aren't just interacting with one another, and we're just like, viewers, we're watching this. They stop, they look, they make eye contact with us, they're interacting with us, they're bringing us into this. The way they do that in this episode is very fun, and it makes it much more thrilling to watch. It's an experience. Instead of just watching the show, instead of just watching this episode of Dexter New Blood, you're enjoying the experience. It's more thrilling. It's just way better. This is, like I said, this is my favorite episode of the season. So let me get back to my notes. Okay, so now of course Dexter is he's gonna get ready to break fourth wall. Dub's just warning him of hey, be careful. And you need to remember she's the new Harry in Dexter's life. Harry only showed up when Dexter really needed like guidance. And I guess when you're trying to break it to your kid that you're a serial killer, you probably need a little help there. That's probably not the easiest thing to be like, hey, by the way, Daddy murders people. No, bad, red flags, horrible, no. Like the response. So yeah, you probably need some help. I'm professional help too, but hey, whatever. Here we are. We're the ones that are the fans of him, so of our beloved anti-hero. Well, Deb explains to Harrison Dex, explains to Harrison how the Dark Passenger is always there, riding alongside him, giving him, and then he just starts to like break off because he's thinking of what the right word is to use. Deb had just warned him to be careful. He needs to really walk on eggshells and telling his son that he's a serial killer. So he has this pause, and when he's saying, the Dark Passenger is giving me, he's giving him, Harrison interjects a lot of bad ideas. And then it cuts to the title scene, Dexter in Blood. So now we've got Dexter seated beside Harrison on the hearth, and Deb is still in the corner closest. It seems Harrison's starting to realize that Dexter understands far more than Harrison had ever believed or could have known that Dexter would understand him. We get flashes of what is about to happen, and amidst the director's foreshadowing of what's going on with these flashes. And so now we're back inside that cabin, like I said. Dexter is now seated closer on the hearth beside Harrison. They're not sitting side by side awkwardly, like facing forward. They are facing one another while sitting there, and Deb is at the corner closest to them, leaning forward during this discussion that they're having. And so he asks, a Dark Passenger? That sounds right. And that just comes to show more understanding from Harrison. Logically, he asks, why are we like this? And Dexter explains that, they both saw their mothers murdered. When they were young, that, they were born in blood. And, well, he didn't say that part. Harrison, nearly cries at this point, realizing that his father has endured the exact same pain of that loss and of seeing their mother be murdered. Because that's got to be, like, awful and completely scarring, permanently damaging for life, understandably. So, especially at such a tender age. So, them both being mentally disturbed and serial killers, it's at least understanding. Doesn't make it right, but it's certainly something people could understand. It doesn't mean we agree with it. We can understand why they are this way. But they're just fictional characters, so no big deal. Let's see. All right, so, after the almost nearly crying for, feeling so alone and misunderstood, Harrison then comes to have this, like, look of relief wash over him. And Dexter explains how Harry found out, and instead of institutionalizing him, Harry gave him the code. And that people must be proven 100% guilty of their crimes. I can't hear. Speaking of cat, Ruby. Kitty, 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 Ruby. She'll probably walk in now. Well, that's okay. She's a sweet kitty. So Dexter's explaining, about the whole Harry thing and how he's giving him this code, and he's saying, you have to prove that people are 100% guilty. You have to prove, well, he doesn't say this part, but part of the code is that you have to prove that they will do this again, that it's not a one-time thing. That's where Dexter kind of broke the code with Matt Caldwell. However, we could easily debate that he would do it again, given the fact that he was, using illicit substances while being in the possession of a firearm, which is illegal. It's a felony. Just all kinds of stuff. He's a loose cannon. We saw that. So it was probably inevitable. But he's explaining we've got these parts of this, other key elements to not being caught, like, you gotta clean up after yourself. You remember, he's a neat, tidy monster. So Dexter is starting to explain how, now they need proof of what Kurt is doing, what they suspect him to be doing. So, it's the whole, now Dexter's in the scene and he's showing and talking about his past. He's recanting with this, relating what's about to happen. He's foreshadowing kind of what's about to happen to Kurt. So he's talking about he needs proof. We're seeing Dexter now, flashback in Miami, in the long sleeve green. Why is the cat locked in there? Give me a moment. I am so sorry. My cat is just being crazy. She ended up hauling up down the hallway. What a weirdo. But so Dexter's back in this long sleeve dark, the olive drab green Henley shirt and his black gloves, and he's in Mr. Wiggles' playhouse looking around for proof. And this is where he breaks our fourth wall, okay? So Dexter's in a back room of this playhouse, which has been fashioned into a pseudo efficiency apartment. There's a haphazardly made shower area. There's a sink with vanity. The vanity itself is a thick wooden frame mirror that inside is a medicine cabinet. And Dexter's looking at this, and it's, affixed to the wall, and this is all in the back room of the playhouse. What? Come here. This is the baby of the dog we lost. This is Minnie Mazafanga. I love you too, baby. So she's a little sad thing, and I mean, she's doing okay now, but she's been a little sad, obviously, and so she's getting extra privileges that she doesn't normally get. I'm trying to not make a habit of them getting into the new leather chair because I love my respawn. It saves my back. And it's important if you have a chronic illness like I have a really crazy rare disease, and it helps me a lot. Let's just say it literally a lifesaver. So if you have a bad back, get a respawn. Help a lot. He's looking at this mirrored medicine cabinet, and like I said, he'd been explaining about you need the proof, and then he breaks fourth wall and looks you dead in the eye through the mirror. We're looking over his left shoulder, and we see him looking at us, and he goes, "It's not always easy to find." And he reaches up around to the top of the frame, pulls it from the wall a teeny bit, loosening it to where he can take his hands from the sides and actually remove it and lower it down. Because when he'd opened it, really what did he find? Nothing. Standard medicine cabinet stuff. Boring. Prescriptions, toothpaste, deodorant, whatever. Nothing. So he takes it all down. And inside of the hole in the wall that accommodates for the medicine cabinet, the bottom of it is, surprise, surprise, a little metal lunchbox. Now, let me just say, the way they've done some of the fourth wall breaking, like they had done there in the scene and a couple others, it just makes this whole episode, it's a thrilling adventure. The drama is almost gone. It just makes it more, titillating, because it becomes more immersive in a way when they're involving you so much. Why are you on the microphone, motherfucker? Oh, you're so sweet. I love you too. So back to finding proof. After breaking the fourth wall, Dexter then looks back and he finds this lunchbox. He pulls it out and he begins to, start looking through it. And he says secrets are secret for a reason. That's when he takes this lunchbox out, exposes it inside are Polaroids of young children dressed as clowns with their eyes closed, laying on the floor. Kind of weird. So they're probably dead. Probably safe to say that these children are no longer with us. So that's, proof, because these are trophies he's keeping. What are you doing? Now he explains how Harry, being a law enforcement officer, had seen bad guy after bad guy, all these criminals just slipping through the cracks of the justice system, just too many of them, just, they've escaped arrest in consequence of the law and justice, only to go out and hurt innocent people, over and over again. And so that's when he, let me get my notes, had decided basically, he's going to teach Dexter the code, that those would be the people that would be used as basically a sacrifice to sate the Dark Passenger, and it's doing a benefit for society in a vigilante way. So you're gonna lay on my arm the whole time? That's not gonna work. No, that's not gonna work. So Dexter's, we're seeing him seated side by side, and he's discussing with him, and the conversation picks up a bit more, and he's explaining about how Harry had kept the Dark Passenger secret from the whole family. And Deb, she shows back up. She's like, fucking A, he did. Looking Dexter dead in the eyes. She is like mad, obviously. Harrison said, well, they would have been afraid of you. And Dexter replies, he would never have hurt family, while Deb stares at him, just, with teary eyes and a hard, like, what the fuck really type of face. And a partial side smile, like, are you fucking crazy? As she leans in to just emphasize her point that, she's dead because of Dexter's actions. Dexter then says Harry had given him the code to channel the Dark Passenger, to use it for good, to make a way forward in life. Now we see freaky, crazy Mr. Wiggles being all kinds of creepy creeper, just giggling and touching up what looks like day old makeup. And then he's touching a Polaroid on his vanity mirror there of what appears to be another boy, alive and playing at the playhouse. Probably the next intended victim. That's what I'm going to suspect. While he's doing this and putting the makeup on and giggling and being all super freaking creepy, just to the max creepy, he hears a loud whistling, hissing sound, and that seemed to snap him from this like crazy euphoric state of whatever the hell he was doing in his head, and he seemed less suddenly psychotic to the viewer and very alert, and he goes, what the fuck? So in response to the sound, he then takes off his makeup cloak angrily, and he begins putting on his clown shoes, and they want to stress that, when you look at the outside of the building's dated, but it's maintained. It's not like falling apart. The inside that they had showed us of the playroom part seems dated but maintained. The back room that he's made his efficiency apartment really showcases that it's not like filthy. It's just really, really aged, really just bad. It's bad. It's sad. I mean, it's a dwelling ish kind of. I mean, there's no kitchen. It's sad. He's obviously not living a good life. Aside from that, he's a psychotic person, killing people, children. What a psycho. So he they're showing as he's taking off this makeup cloak that he has this wife beater on that's nasty and stained, and he's got shorts on of some type that are like mid-thigh, and he has holy socks on, but one sock is so bad that 3 of his toes are exposed. He begins to put on his clown shoes and then starts to walk to the door. He's gonna walk out this door with some authority of like, what the fuck is this? I'm gonna go investigate. Like, what the hell is this sound? Because he knows he's alone. It's after hours. It's nighttime. The place is closed down. This is where we now see it goes from showing his feet and chewing up and all this to we are inside the playhouse, in that room, and we see Mr. Wiggles walking out of his room, and he's walking kind of with some authority, and he walks over and gets in the middle of the room, and he realizes the sound is coming from this bouncy castle, so he walks over to it and examines a gash in it that's about this big and proceeds to stick 2 fingers into the hole, investigating it as he bends down and peers into it. And from behind, we see our favorite anti-hero appear with a red foam clown nose pinching the tip of his nose and his syringe going right into the carotid artery, and Mr. Wiggles plummeting down like a sack of potatoes. At this point, we are now seeing Dexter from behind over the shoulder, and he turns and looks at us with a smile, and he uses his finger to, and there's a pop sound effect, pop that red clown nose off of his face. But when he had taken him, he had this look and smile of just like, see what fun, like look at the fun I'm having. That's when he's looking dead at you after he pops that nose off. He breaks fourth wall again, and it's just the sound effect of that pop that the production team added in. It was a nice touch, very subtle but very nice, very well done. That part made it quite fun, and I don't know, I had this whole like, I was almost waiting for Dexter to crack a joke about like, see what fun, or he's, clowning around or something, like that. Maybe you guys can think of something funnier and inject your own here. Just let me know, leave a comment, something of what you would have probably said in that moment. But that's how I interpreted that look. Now we're back in the cabin, and Dexter's explaining again to Harrison what all's going on, and Harrison's like, you kidnapped him? I did, Dexter says, and he's nodding. He explains that Wiggles was a threat. He would have tortured and killed that kid, confirming to us that the boy in the Polaroid on the mirror was the next intended victim of Mr. Wiggles. Deb appears again on the coffee table. Hey, that's enough. Harrison asks, what he does next. Dexter explains that he has to prepare a place to, and we see Deb staring daggers straight at Dex, and facing forward where he starts facing forward where Deb is at this point, because it now cuts and we're seeing like we're sitting where Deb is looking at him, and he's looking at her, and he looks kind of down at the floor, and he continues to speak and look for the right words. And when he speaks with the right word that he delayed to find, he says that, it's to confront these bad people. And then we see the kill room inside of Mr. Wiggles' playhouse. It has some mirrors that help make the walls. He is plastic wrapped down to the slide. He is quite screwed. There is a pole where balloons have been wrapped around it, and there are strings hanging off of the balloons that have been made into like a spinning mobile of the Polaroids of his victims. And Dexter explains that he has to be very neat. He says that, he has to show them their victims, like, because it's important that they open their eyes and see what they've done. Now Deb grabs Dexter's arm in this kill room. He's getting ready to take the razor blade, and collect his cheap blood drop for his blood slide samples, his little trophy collection. And she grabs him, and she's standing across on the other side of the slide that Mr. Wiggles is now plastic wrapped down to. And she begins to tell him that he absolutely cannot tell Harrison and about, his sick ass ritual is what she calls it. She lets go and he backs away, taking a knife from his collection instead, and the ammonia cells to wake up Wiggles, who comes to looking at Dexter, looking around and asking Dexter, what the fuck is going on? Kind of a logical question to ask at this point, right? Deb again breaks fourth wall. And, uh-oh, something broke. What broke? I can't fix your thing right now. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry about that. So where was I at with this? Okay, yeah, so he's all like, what the fuck is going on? Then now Dex again is gonna go in and he's breaking fourth wall. He looks us in the eyes, he's smiling, he says, they always say some shit like that. And he turns back to Wiggles and he says, stop clowning around. Now we get the joke. Now he gives it to us. I figured he would have done it a little sooner. Let's see. You know exactly what, so stop playing around. You know exactly what is going on. You remember them all. And he starts spinning that mobile of the pictures of the boys, the Polaroids. As Dexter's about to then drive the knife down into Wiggles' chest, Deb is there on the other side, warning Dexter that if he tells Harrison that he kills people, there is no going back. Dexter looks Deb in the eyes like a deer in headlights, just hold a knife there, just clearly thinking about what she'd said in that moment. She's there on the other side warning him that, if he goes this far, this is it, you are ruining him. And he's just really taking that moment in. There's not just like a half second delay, it's a few second delay, and then it cuts scenes. And this is where we're back in the cabin, and we see Harrison asking Dexter, about confronting Wiggles. Did you get him to stop just by scaring him? Was that what made him stop being a bad guy and killing people? You scared him really bad. And then it cuts back to the playhouse, and it shows Dexter holding the knife, and he says, fine, to Deb, about, you can't tell him, because you're gonna fuck him up. So he drives that knife on down into Wiggles' chest. I won't tell him, he says. Now we're back at the cabin again. You're gonna get a little whiplash in the beginning, but it was so fun, the back and forth with it. It was a very exciting game of Pong. If you're a gamer like me, it's an old Atari game, really fun, and it felt like that. It was just fun, this whole episode. So now they're back in the cabin, and he's in front of the fireplace, and it's just crackling away, and he says, yes, he never hurt anyone again. Dexter's confirming it and, bringing relief to Harrison. Harrison blurts out, so you're kind of like Batman or something. And Dexter, he has to stifle a chuckle, and he's smiling, and he says, I kind of like Dark Defender. Harrison's now asking that, what is this? What helps him with his Dark Passenger? Is this what sates Dexter's desire to hurt people? And Dexter just nods and confirming it. And Harrison looks a bit overwhelmed, and he admits, this is a lot. It's pretty lofty. He Dexter replies, it's not every day that you're almost murdered and now this. Well, I hope not, Dex. I certainly hope not. If someone's trying to murder you every day, you are pretty well screwed, or you're John Wick. Like, either or. So now reality sets in, and Harrison asks, is Kurt gonna come after us? And Dexter says, if he was Kurt, he'd be 500 miles away by now. This relieves Harrison, and Dexter, puts a hand on his son's right shoulder, and he says about how, you should get some sleep and Merry Christmas. And Harrison's like, oh yeah, you too. And he just smiles, realizing that, it is early hours of Christmas morning now. And so he heads off to bed. I think we had a quick little inner monologue of Dexter saying that, he has one less present to wrap, referring to Kurt's lackey that he had to kill. And he drives off to the summer camp and goes to clean up. It's the most wonderful time of the year playing during this scene, and Dexter's removed the knife slowly from the guy's chest. He stands up smelling it, takes a breath, and he's like, almost like, when you have a really good drink of really cold, refreshing water on a really scorching hot day. You just take that drink and then you're like, the relief of it. It was kind of like that. Like, Dexter, how mentally disturbed are you? Oh, wait, that's right. You're a serial killer. You're pretty mentally fucked. But I digress. So Dexter has that moment when he pulls the knife out. And, yes, our anti-hero is quite proud of himself. And then he sets up his kill shop in his, not kill shop so much as his dismemberment shop in the camp kitchen. Cannibal's fast food dream. And Deb appears, telling him that, once he's done with the hillbilly, the Harrison's going to have more questions. And Dexter's saying that, when he asks them, I'll answer them. And she asked him, Deb's like, have you ever, and she's giggling kind of while saying this because she understands the irony of this when she asks, have you ever thought about how screwed up it is having watched your mom get chopped up in a shipping container and you're doing the same shit to your victims? And Dexter says, Harrison uses a straight razor. He's looking over his left shoulder at her, and Harrison uses a straight razor, the same weapon that the Trinity killer had used to kill Rita. And he happily just goes back to dismembering the guy, and he's all happy because he's frozen. So no bloody mess. Pretty crazy. Now we're in Angela's living room, and it's Christmas morning, and she's going over the Bay Harbor Butcher files, and she also notices something circled in red on one of the photos of a decapitated head, and it's on the neck of it, and it's circled in red. So she's looking at it closer, and she's seeing, it looks awfully similar to the picture that she'd taken of the drug dealer's neck when he said that, Dexter stabbed him in the neck with like a needle or something. And while she's looking at these two and comparing them, Audrey interrupts her in the living room where they're at. It's Christmas morning, and she's just got happiness because she's like, oh my god, a Stratocaster? They hug and say Merry Christmas and that they love one another. And now we're back at Dexter's Christmas morning, where Sleepy Harrison wakes up and wanders out into the living room area, and Dexter's looking out with a cup of coffee, and it's like, good morning, Merry Christmas. And there's trees there's not trees, dyslexia, damn, there's presents under the tree, and Harrison's like, is that for me? And he encourages them to open the packages, so he opens like one or two, and the gifts are clothing. Okay. And then the third box he goes to open is a really long, big box. It's bigger than all the other presents, and there's still a few left under the tree for him to unwrap. And he's like, well, is this one for me? And Dexter says, well, there's only one way to find out. So he unwraps it, and Harrison finds that he's got a brand new rifle and a scope. And Dexter says that, he starts to explain that he's never used it after going with bad guys because while looking at it, Harrison looks over his shoulder and he's like, have you ever used a gun going after these bad guys, since you're kind of presenting me with a gun? And he's like, no, 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 no. Like, never, guns are messy and loud, and I'm a terrible shot. Like, just no. So he dismisses that. And, that all checks and tracks with what we've seen in these episodes so far. We've never seen him ever use a gun. He likes his knives. The other alternative, I guess. So he explains that the purchase of the rifle and giving it to him as a gift it's all about blending in. It's optics. It's visuals. Harrison realized that, the wrestling team was all the guys on it had guns. So, this would definitely help him fit in better with his peers. And now they're outside and Harrison's learning how to use it. And this is where, while they may do a horrible job with the scopes in the distance, that whole, aside from that, I'm really proud of them that they go into that the safety on the rifle was on. Harrison was kind of like, what's wrong? It's not working. And he's looking at it, and Dexter steps up and he shows them how to take the safety off. And he's like, you have to take the safety off. And he shows them how to do that. And Harrison's aiming at some glass bottles. He misses his first shot, but he goes again. He makes his second shot perfectly. Again, way too close, but worked the safety. Love that. Safety on a gun. It's awesome. And he nails that second shot, but they stop and he engages in a little bit more dialogue. That's when he starts to get more questions, I guess. And Harrison asks if Kurt had gone after him because Dexter was going to do to Kurt what he had done to Wiggles. Dexter explains, Kurt had been a serial killer for over 25 years, taking the lives of innocent women. That kind of shocks Harrison, and the look on his face shows it. And he says, he asked, Dexter, he doesn't say, he asks him, like, how long have you known? And Dexter says, he only recently found out, and that, since Kurt had already been previously arrested for murdering someone and then got away with it and was released, being vague in how he's explaining this, he's just, kind of dismissing like this. So Harrison mentions bringing her up to Angela because she's the chief of police. But Dexter doesn't have proof, and if Harrison testifies about it, because he offers to testify that, Kurt, if he testifies about Kurt trying to kill him, that Angela would ask a lot of questions about Dexter being on Kurt's property, because, he'd been there trying to acquire the proof. So Harrison calls it vigilante shit. And Dexter says he does have a plan to make sure Kurt doesn't hurt anybody else. He's kind of like baiting and waiting. We hear an inner monologue from Dexter where he's going, ask me what the plan is. Ask me how you can help. Because he really wants his son to partake in the code that he had learned from Harry. And he wants to pass this down and have him learn these ways to protect him so he can deal with his dark passenger. And he's basically ready to just teach Harrison the code fully. He wants to protect him, so we get it. And Harrison says, hey, I forgot I made you a gift. So obviously that's not what Dexter wanted to hear, but he reaches into his backpack and pulls out a book, and he says it's not much, but it's kind of how he remembered her, and he hands a piece of paper to Dexter, and it's a drawing of Deb that is very well done. It's very beautiful, and especially if it's supposed to be done by a 16-year-old, it is very impressive. So Dexter says that Dexter's touching his shoulder, and he pats him on the back while doing it at the same time. The whole dad thing, shoulder on hand, little pat, same time thing. And he says that to Harrison, thank you, and that he loves that, and he's expressing gratitude. That's hard for Dexter because He's a serial killer. He's a sociopath. He's nuts. So then Harrison's like, hey, do you got more bottles? And Dexter's like, actually, hold up. We're going to have to go to Angela's to exchange gifts. But speaking of gifts, I have something else to give you. It's part of the blending in thing, and it's kind of a tradition. And he goes inside and he retrieves, a wrap gift. And like I said, there were others that had been left under the tree. And he walks over to Harrison and hands him the gift that he unwraps. And he goes, you're kidding. We don't get to see it yet. He just goes, you're kidding. Dexter goes, I have one too. And he's smiling. Then we're inside Angela's house. The doorbell is ringing. She's opening up the door for the guys. And they're arriving in ugly Christmas sweaters. So that's what was in the box. And Angela is only subtly awkward around Dexter. She gives him this kind of like weird, awkward, like cheek offering for him to peck her, give her a pet kiss, little. And he tells her he loves her, and she's like, Merry Christmas. He's not picking up what she's putting down. Okay, he's just oblivious to this whole scene. He is the most oblivious man. Now Harrison and Audrey are in the kitchen and they're pulling monkey bread out of the oven and eating it. And she brings up about how he seems different. He seems happy now. And he's like, yeah, found a way to let go of my anger. And she says, like, that's the best Christmas ever. Best Christmas gift ever. And she's just smiling and happy for him. And then Angela and Dexter are sitting on the couch in the living room looking in at this going on in the kitchen. Dexter leans over and he's all like, we might have to discuss about if they become an item type thing. And Angela's just the awkward, like, not having it, and Dex is somehow just oblivious. He just is not picking it up. Don't get it. So then they go out their morning and they bring the monkey bread into the living room, joining the parents. This is what the kids do. And then they begin opening all their gifts. And let's see here. Yep. Awkward moment, got that. Oh. And they're having this like normal family moment. Dexter opened a gift. Harrison opened a gift. Now we're on to. So Harrison opened his gift from Audrey, and no. Invert that. Sorry. Harrison had given his gift to Audrey, and she opens it, and it's a scarf, and she's all like, "Oh, I love it." And so she hugged him and gave him a kiss on the cheek at the same time, saying she loved it. And the funniest gift is definitely Dexter's gift. Dexter had received from Angela a kitty cat ugly Christmas sweater with bells and stuff and bows. It's pretty ridiculous. He had given to Angela, though, an LEO book, an LEO training guide book, one that Harry would have had in his library that he's talking about. They read all the time and always, leaned on for his police work. And it's about it's like a guide on like arrests, search, and seizures. I mean, he tells her, oh, this one, like Harry had, he used it a lot, and it's just not your library. I thought you might like that. And Andre calls him out on it not being a very romantic gift, and he's like, yeah, acknowledging it, while he's simultaneously enjoying the moment of having a normal family and having a normal moment on Christmas. Not being a monster, being just a normal human being. And everything seems really great in Dexter's mind, but he's just not picking up what Angela's putting down. She's being very awkward, very withdrawn, because, she's suspecting him of being a serial killer. Hello. How would you act? You probably act a little weird, too. Gosh. So, well, Dexter's enjoying his little daydream of this normalcy, and they get a little surprise visit. It's a little surprise visit at Angela's house from Kurt. And he just drops in and disrupts Dexter's happy little fantasy land. Now, Dexter's keenly aware that Kurt obviously isn't going to run away at this point. He's showing up at Angela's house, and that this is going to be bad. Dexter and Harrison are both exchanging looks and stand up. And, after all, when Dexter let the Trinity Killer go, that's when the Trinity Killer killed Rita. Technically, the night before, when Kurt kind of disappeared off into the woods, when Dexter had narrowly missed him with his truck, that was like he got away. Can't let it happen, because what happens next is the person you love most is going to die. So, Dexter being Dexter, he is definitely on alert at this point. And Kurt's trying to invite himself inside. Audrey's kind of looking a little curious over at Harrison. A little like, kind of what? And, they all get up and they start making their way to the front door. And Dexter's putting his arm over Angela's shoulder, kind of like claiming his territory, marking his territory, trying to make it clear to Kurt that, he's not intimidated. He is smiling, and he wants you to know that he's gonna kill you, especially if you try to hurt her. And Kurt Baines, being a good guy, with a surprise, he's giving this gift to Angela, and he's like, oh, well, Jim and Harrison, had I known you two were going to be here, I'd have brought a little gift for you too. And he says how he's jealous that Jim gets to spend Christmas with his son. And Dexter says that, hey, I hear you, and it would be a tough Christmas without Harrison by my side. That would have ruined the whole holiday. And he's just looking him in the eyes, smiling. Kurt politely says, peace be with you. Dexter reaches out, shakes his hand, bows a little bit, leaning in, saying, I'm also with you. And then Kurt turns and he looks over at Harrison. He says, Merry Christmas to you too, kiddo. Hope to see you around. Followed with some finger gun action going on there, and a wink, couple winks actually. And yeah, see you around. Finger gun. Kurt, Mr. Crazy Guy who likes to gun people down in the back. Yeah, freak. So that makes Harrison swallow nervously, and Kurt tells Angela, hey, enjoy the peppermint bark. I had it flown in from the city. It's the best. And he Angela's looking confused this whole time during this whole exchange. And Kurt leaves. Audrey looks strangely at Harrison now. She's like, what the hell is going on? And Dexter immediately, as soon as the door is closed, says, him and Harrison have to go. Dexter immediately says that him and Harrison have to go, after the door is closed. That's when Harrison backs his dad up. That's right. So he, good old son, he gets his dad's back. So Dexter's like, we gotta go as soon as that door's closed. I mean, it's instantaneous. And Harrison's like, yeah, hey, Dad got me a new rifle for Christmas, and he, told me he promised, he would take me out and teach me how to use it, so we're gonna go do that. And they leave in this rush. Dexter, he's just getting ready, walks out the door, just, boom, got a dip, coat on, gotta go. And they all say a quick little goodbye, and Audrey looks at Angela, and she's like, was that a little weird? And Angela's trying to kind of be cool and dismiss it a little bit and not get her daughter too worried or involved, because she's pretty, we'll get into stuff. She's a pretty involved child, teen, that, this is their first Christmas together, and it's, this is probably kind of normal. It's not weird that it's just, first Christmas, and it's been a long time since they've last seen each other. So maybe that's not so weird. And she's using this excuse to protect Audrey. And, she's already suspicious that Jim, or rather Dexter, is possibly the Bay Harbor Bridger. So she just wants to have some distance there. And just, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, honey. Gotcha. Now at the truck, as they're walking out, Dexter has to quiet Harrison from asking about Kurt not running. He's like, why didn't he go away? Do you think he's gonna be sticking around? What if he goes after Audrey? What's gonna happen? And Dexter has him get in the truck. He's like, get in the truck. That's when they begin discussing things. Dexter's inner monologuing about how he knows what he wants to do, but he's not alone in this. While he gets in the truck and he's starting the engine up, and Harrison's getting in and he's putting his seatbelt on, and he asks Dexter, what if we do what you did with Wiggles? Dexter turns and faces him and he says, they would have to find the proof first. And he explains that, about trophies and what they are and what they could be, and that Kurt keeps them on his property, probably near his cabin. And it cuts to us showing Angela. She goes to the local veterinarian's office, and she's regifting Kurt's peppermint bark. Regifting, the gift that keeps on giving. And she's there. She says, she's doing a little investigation. She needs to inquire about, some sales of ketamine in the last month. And the veterinarian lists off 3 people, the dates, and why they made each purchase. Angela looks really relieved. And then the veterinarian says, oh wait, your boyfriend Jim. It says he needed it for his goat, Vincent Van Goat. It's a cute name. Now Angela has tears, and they're starting to form in her eyes, and she has to force a smile over her face about this cute punny goat name. And she says thanks and turns to leave, holding back all of her emotions of, oh, my boyfriend used ketamine, that could be in the needle, he did this, like, she's connecting the dots. She's figuring out she's been banging the Bay Harbor butcher. So now we're back with Dexter and Harrison, and they're outside sitting on the tailgate of Dex's truck while Harrison is flying the drone that Kurt had purchased him previously in the episodes earlier. And they're searching over Kurt's property looking for any kinds of signs of something. This is where Harrison confesses to Dexter, I have to tell you something. You're right about what I did with Ethan. Shit, I set the whole thing up so I could get away with it, maybe even look like a hero. The confession washes over Dexter, and he sits there just kind of content and going, realizing he was right. He didn't have it wrong. And then it kind of reassures Dexter that he's kind of doing the right thing and teaching Harrison the code. Harrison wanted to now know how, now that Dexter knows, he told him about, like, he's like, okay, like, this now, Dad, so how did you know about me? What tipped you off that you were right about what I did? He's like, hey, back in the day, my days with the Miami Metro Homicide, I used to be a blood splatter analysis, so that's how I knew. It was my job, kind of have to know, and it's like my job, I was good at it. Like I said, Dad's not terrible at it. They both smile, and Harrison apologizes because of how he'd been treating Dexter poorly, because Dexter actually knew the truth, and that Harrison was just afraid. Dexter nods, and Harrison wants to know why Dexter didn't tell him back then when he knew, and he said he wanted to, but he needed to try everything out first. And Harrison assumes that, like therapy, and Dexter doesn't contradict that at all, and he said he knew Dexter was hiding something, and then he says that he was thinking about Wiggles at the end. He's kind of connecting that something's not quite right there, and he's like, you said you made sure he didn't hurt anyone else again, scaring the shit out of him, even hurting him. I mean, what would that feel like to him? When I was 12 years old, I started having fantasies about hunting down the Trinity killer and killing him with his own razor slowly. Harrison's divulging this fantasy that he's concocted in his head, this revenge fantasy for the killing of his mother right in front of him. Pretty understandable. And, well, he's just he's made this confession, and in the scene when he's making this confession, he's looking at the drone screen and then looking at Dex, and the light snow that was falling is still just itty specks, but it's falling heavier now, and it's just kind of adding to the scene. It's like softening the sound and dampening it and making it just kind of really peacefully and yet eerily quiet at the same time, if you get what I mean on that. And in the scene, we then get to see Deb appear, and she's looking at Harrison and Dex, and she's got her hands pressed down into her pockets, stuffed them down. It's cold out. She doesn't have a coat on for whatever reason. And she's looking at Dexter, shaking her head just very slightly, just very, very minorly, like, no. And Dexter, this is going on. Dexter's looking at her, and Harrison continues to fest that desire to Dexter, and Dex just goes and says he understands. Harrison begins to nod. Then they refocus on the drone. They have that like moment. It was Deb helped him keep it simple. Just don't do it. Don't be like, I'm a serial killer. Well, they're focusing on the drone, and they see this like really funny area on the viewfinder, and Dexter's like, hey, what's that? Can you go a little closer so I can see what this is? And he's like, hey, this is right in the area where Kurt had disappeared last night. And they get a little closer and are looking around, and he's like, maybe this is where he keeps his trophies. This is where he probably does his killing. This is probably where he keeps the trophies at. And Harrison's all like, hey, there's a vent. And he's getting all really gung-ho. Like, he's all like, let's go. He's like, hey, let's go kill Kurt. Let's do this. He's all aboard the murder train. And Dexter tells them, hey, you gotta slow your roll, kid. The first rule of the code is don't get caught. They'll come back under the cover of night and check it all out. Now we get to go back, and Angela's listening to the Mary Fucking Kill broadcast of her podcast. It's the old broadcast of the Bay Harbor Butcher episode. She's back in on it again, and she's really doing her homework now on Dexter. While she's doing this, Dexter interrupts her with a call while he's getting dressed and telling her that, he hopes he doesn't bum the girls out if they ditch, since they had been really bonding. He wants to continue this bonding time with Harrison, and hopes that, that they can understand. They're going to go on a night hike to check out the blood moon. And Merry Christmas, love ya. He doesn't love ya. And she just says, Merry Christmas to you too, and hangs up. Like, she was fine with it. She understood, but Merry Christmas to you too. There's no love yas back. Not I love you. Not even a love ya. Just again, she's acting very awkwardly, very distant. He is just not picking up on what she is putting down. Dexter is oblivious. I don't get how he can miss these clues. Now it cuts to Kurt doing his ritual prep with his ritual songs, and Dexter's doing his rituals with his knives. And Deb's telling him this is too much. Dexter tells her that, Harrison fantasizes about killing the Trinity Killer, like, using it, like, this makes it okay. And she laughs, who fucking didn't? Like, everyone wanted to kill him. I wanted to kill the Trinity Killer. And I love John Lithgow. Just, wow, the role, wow. She's trying to help Dexter rationalize that he doesn't need to groom Harrison to become a future serial killer like Harry had done to Dexter. Dexter said Harrison's just like him. So then Deb said, stop it finding the trophies. Like, let that be enough. Because, isn't that enough? That Dexter doesn't need to do any of the killing and all that with Harrison. And Dexter says he's not forcing him into it, and that he's helping him like Harry had helped Dexter. And this is where Deb kind of loses it. She was like, there were fucking alternatives. She's going off. Therapy, institutionalization, prison might have even been better. And Dexter snaps at this point. She's not yelling, but she's going off. She's going out hard. So it really pushes Dexter, because that's like imprisoning his son. So he grabs her by the head. He's not squeezing her head, but he grabs her firmly, making her look him eye to eye, not letting her go, like holding on to her Yeah, look at me. So he's holding onto her head, which is not great, by the way. No one should do that to you. But he's holding on, and he says, "You think prison would be better? Whose side are you on?" Harrison was born in blood. His dark passenger pushes him to hurt others. This path is the only way. Hey, let's go. That's where Deb gets really cold, and she says, "And you fucking love it." And now we're back with Angela. And she's getting to the point in the podcast where Mary fucking Kell, Molly Parker, reveals that she doesn't think that Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher, as the Miami Metro PD homicide had decided and believed that that was the identity of the Bay Harbor Butcher. She believes, the butcher is still out there feeling all butchery and still is a threat. And that's when Audrey comes into the kitchen and taps Angela on the shoulder, and it startles her. And so she shrieks and, removes her earbuds and tells Audrey that she had startled her and freaked her out. And Audrey said that, you freaked me out too, because of the way she shrieked. It scared her a bit. So she looks over, she sees on the screen that her mom's watching Mary fucking Kill, and that she's on the Bay Harbor Butcher episode of it, and she's like, "Oh, BHB," she's like, "Bad guy killer, chops them up and dumps them in the ocean," like highlights. And Angela asks her, Molly thinks, that the Bay Harbor Butcher is still out there. What do you think? And Audrey said that she'd be scared to put something out there like that if Molly is right about the Bay Harbor Butcher, and that she was thankful to be living in bumfuck Egypt. And so they end up saying their goodnights, and Angela tries to reach Molly on her cell phone, and it just goes to voicemail. So she hangs up, kind of in dismay. What the hell did that? Oh, everything breaks. Now, we're gonna cue in some rock music on this next scene, and we see Kurt in his white hunting gear. The whole garb, and he is spraying Jim's cabinet down with gasoline, and then he takes a log or a piece of firewood from Jim's fire pit that's lit and uses that to light the gasoline trail that leads to the spray that had gone all over the roof, the porch, everything of the cabin. And then he takes his rifle and he hops up onto his truck, and he's standing there waiting, hoping to smoke them out so that way he can gun them down. This guy is not a dummy, but he is a dummy because while that's a smart tactic, they're not home. So dummy, that's not gonna work. He looks angry and confused, but he's just there waiting, like they gotta come out. He's just so certain that they're home. And then it gets to Dexter and Harrison rolling up to Kurt's, and he's not home because he's trying to burn down Dexter's home in the dark of the night. And Dexter's there, and they're riding up in their little ATV to where the strange spot was that they discovered with Kurt Strom when they were flying it overhead. And they go to this brushy area where there's some firewood, and Dexter picks up, there's like a lock that's kind of in the brush there. He picks it up and he looks at it, and he then begins to pick it. And Harrison looks at him picking this lock because it does not take Dexter long. He's like amazed. He's like, "Can you teach me how to do that?" Dexter nods, and he opens up this little door. And it shows us that there's these rung ladders cemented into the wall, leading downward. And Dexter says that Harrison can stay there or he can go in. Harrison chooses to follow. While they're climbing down this tunnel, Harrison asks about, like, "Hey, what's that?" Because he sees something with their red flashlights they've got going on. Dexter looks down. He sees that it's a camera, but then he also notices that there's this trip wire that is just above the next rung right below him. And Dexter doesn't give a damn. So he steps on it on purpose, and he tells Harrison that it's a camera, and he keeps on going. While Kurt is watching Dexter's cabin burn, his phone keeps going off and keeps going off and keeps going off. And he gets really angry and takes it out of his pocket, and he looks at it, and he sees Harrison looking like this at him, climbing down the ladder, just looking at him right through the camera lens. And he gets super pissed and gets off the truck and goes and hauls off because he's going to go head to the property, presumably to then go kill them. And from there, we get to see them get to the bottom of the stairs, or the ladder, really. And they're looking around this little, like, dark room. And there's these, like, plastic cut strips. They're not perfectly cut. Some of them are kind of screwed up, dangling on the far side. So they walk to that part of the room because it just opens into a little room where the ladder was that they come down. So they walk further on in through the plastic drapery and look, and there's like a hallway, and it's all dark going down the right. Somewhere in there, Dex finds a light switch, flips that switch, not like a little one, like it sounds industrial. So he flicks that bad boy on, and the hallway lights go on, and there are these like handmade boxes with like viewing windows on them that go down this really long hallway, or fairly long hallway, and on the back, lining the hallway on each side and at the end. As they begin walking through it, they began noticing and seeing all of his trophies. Every one of those girls is there. Most of them have dark hair. Their makeup's all done very natural with red lip. They have a tank top V-neck like dress on. They are all standing. He has them embalmed perfectly. And they're in these little weird viewing boxes dressed up all like one another. And you see these girls are just lining the walls of this place. Like just every few feet, there's just a new body, new body, new body, new body. There were 3 waves of lights that had to go on to get to the back wall. The back wall, there are 3 more girls. And in the center is Molly Park. Harrison goes on to ask, he's been getting away with this for years. So many women. Dad, until you found out, or until you found him. You killed Wiggles, didn't you? And as Harrison looks at Dexter, we see Deb clinging to him, hugging onto him, begging him, please don't. Dexter steps forward, and he nods. And he says, I did. And I took care of Arthur Mitchell, too. Trinity. I killed him for what he did to your mother. For what he did to so many others. Harrison's face was taut and firm. This motherfucker needs to die, too. Dexter kisses Harrison on his forehead. And now Angela is at the hotel or B&B that Molly had been staying at. And she's asking to see the room. You know, she's doing some investigation work on it, asking when she was last seen, what time she was checked out. And the small B&B host manager guy, he lets Angela into the room, and she notices a safe. She tries to open it, and she's like, hey, why is this locked? And he's like, I don't know. So he opens it for her. Well, it's locked because it's a safe. Duh. I mean, it's to keep the contents inside of it safe from people like you. You're a random stranger. This is not your property. She opens it up, and reveals inside the safe that there's a camera, her voice recorder, and what also looked like to me to be at least one external hard drive, and I'm not certain what the other thing was, but definitely at least a hard drive. And Angela says, trust me, I'm not, trust me, like, Molly would never leave this. She would never leave these things behind. I know, me, I'm not leaving my Canon behind. I am not leaving my recorder behind. I am not leaving my expensive equipment behind. So Angela's saying that this is something Molly would never leave behind, especially since the hard drive would have like her current work, past work, recorder may have live, current, ongoing work at that moment, and the camera. No, you're not gonna leave all that there. No way. So she's right in saying that this is something that Molly would never leave behind when the guy was like, hey, what's that? So now we go and we're seeing, we're at Kurt's. And we see him like just rapidly grabbing things furiously. Some clothing, stuffing it in a bag, taking money and documents from a safe, stuffing it in a bag, taking a pistol, stuffing it in the side pocket of this bag. He's just ransacking his place fast, getting the hell out of there. He's getting the fuck out of Dodge, okay? He knows he's screwed at this point. He walks he starts walking out into the living room area from like the bedroom or office area where he had been, and out steps Harrison several feet in front of him, and he's like, "Hey, fucko," and gives him some finger gun and a wink. And Kurt tosses down his bag on the couch to his left, and he tossed down a jacket, and he reaches into the pocket and starts pulling a pistol, and Dexter comes up from behind from either like a hallway or another room and just gets him right there in that garage, just plunges the syringe right on in, and boom, Kurt goes out like a light. When Kurt comes to, we get to see him on his own table, the one he was doing all the embalming of the girls with, wrapped in plastic, naked and unconscious. Plastic beneath the table and lining some of the girls on the walls there on the side. And Dexter explains that this is Harrison had asked, and Dexter explains that this is all to like leave no trace, not a drop of blood, not a single hair, that, you know, the code says don't get caught. And that's what Harrison acknowledged. So the code says don't get caught. And Dexter, you know, acknowledges and affirms, yep, that's exactly what this is. Reaffirming, and, you know, that Harrison is listening and learning about the code. How many times have you done this? He asks. This is going to go back and forth quite a bit here, so bear with me. So Harrison's looking at him. He's like, how many times have you done this? Because this is obviously some professional setup shit, right? We've seen his kill rooms. And he says, a lot. How many? Dexter inner monologues for a moment. Go big or go home. In the hundreds. Holy shit. So that means you've saved like thousands of innocent people. Dexter thinks for a little brief second. He goes, that's right. Dexter asks Harrison, you know, is he ready? And he lets him know that if you feel overwhelmed, if you're not up to it or anything like that, you can go outside. It's okay. You know, your first time, it's a lot. And Harrison steps closer with his lips pressed firmly together, and he just waits for Dexter to break the ammonia salt packet that will be waking up the restrained Kurt. Taking that step closer, Dexter goes ahead and pops that open, and Kurt wakes up, and he's restrained, and like any restrained person that comes to, they panic and freak out. So he's struggling, and, you know, he's kind of realizing he's strapped to his own table there. With a man that, you know, you're looking up at him, that killed your son, and then his son's right there that you had just tried to kill the night before. And Dexter's trying to calm him down and get him to stop freaking out so much so he can begin his whole, like, show him pictures and the girls, because it's not pictures this time. Look what you've done. That's, you know, look what you've done. How many times have we heard that line? Look what you've done. So, or look what you did. We know that line. And after Kurt relaxes, he looks up at them and he's looking back and forth, and he's like, why are you doing this? Dexter instructs him to look around. And then Kurt realizes where he is, besides just on his own table. Dexter leans down and whispers to spare them this, you know, the acorn of the story, or chestnut of the story of him blaming his father for this. Kurt says, okay, you got me. It's all me, every bit of it. Pretty fucking amazing, huh? Like, he thinks this is fucking cool that he's done this. Harrison interjects angrily. Really? You murdered innocent women. Kurt argues, like, he's vehement. Like, this is where he shows his level of psychosis and crazy, okay? He's like, no, I saved them. And they were just runaways. Do you have any idea the trauma they were gonna go through? I do. I saw it. I saw firsthand what my father would do to them. And Dexter slaps him on the cheek, and he's like, hey, I told you no dad shit. While Kurt presses his head down to the table, or while he's pressing afterwards on Kurt's nose down, so that way his head is forced to go back to the table. He's like, no, lay down. Calm down. No dad shit. Knock it off. Kurt goes on and explains how the runaway girls, he would go pick them up on the road and take them home to his cabin. He'd give them a nice room, a warm meal, and safety. But that was never enough for them. They always wanted to go back out there, and so he preserved them and kept them safe forever. What a sick fuck? Whoever, like, the writing of this, I didn't look up to see specifically whose hands were writing this episode, but holy fuck, what's wrong with you? This is awesome. I love this episode. The directing of it is amazing. It's a fun, thrilling episode, but holy fuck, the level of insane to your villains is just so masterful. Ugh. So, he's like explaining his level of crazy. And Dexter's very keen as a predator himself that he knows a lie when he hears it. And he softly just says, bullshit. This isn't about saving anyone. This was about power. You loved the power you had over them. It fed the darkness inside of you. You loved the hunt, the capture, their terror feeding you. You deserve to die. Kurt, softly speaking, realizing that, he's not getting off of this table, goes, oh, wow, Jimbo. You really get me, don't you? Was Kurt trying to, in this moment, like, align himself with this captor? Probably, maybe not. I don't know exactly, but any last-ditch effort to probably save your skin, right? Dexter chuckles, and Kurt asks if Dex and Harrison are some sort of vigilante team. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of jealous. The time I spent with Harrison makes me wish my son was more like H here. Harrison cuts in angrily at this point. Yeah? Then why did you try to kill me? Kurt looks back and forth between father and son. And then he makes the connection. Tears are welling in Harrison's eyes, and Kurt looks back at Dex. Oh shit. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what you did to Matt, does he? Kurt now lets out a laugh and continues on. Revenge for your dear old dad murdering my son. He's looking Harrison right in the eyes at this point. An eye for an eye, son for a son. He laughs. He says, nothing personal, kid. Dexter looks over at Harrison and says, Matt fit the code. To this point, Dex is like defending what he's done. 5 people died because of him. And they didn't receive justice because Kurt covered for him. Kurt sits up as much as he can, considering he's plastic wrapped down. So basically, like, from here up, can move. That's about it. So he sits up as best as he can, and he's looking at Dexter like he's the most dastardly one of them all. Wait, what? That's your rationale for killing people? Some kind of bullshit justice code? Then Dexter grabs a blue rag and just stuffs it into his mouth to shut him up. And he's just gagging him with it. He reaches for a knife and he tells Kurt, when Matt was on my table, he blamed you for everything. Just like you blame your dad. Like father, like son. Harrison's looking on from the foot of the table. And Dexter tells him, he's looking at him, you don't have to watch. Kurt sits up one last more time, as much as he can. And he's emitting the only muffled cry that he can. As Dexter then is getting ready. And Harrison's like, no, I'm good. So Dex looks back down, away from Harrison, and drives the knife right on down into his chest. And of course, Kurt, lets out the muffled cry. That hurts like hell, I'm certain. And the blood begins to run. Not just in the immediate area, but it comes out from underneath the plastic wrap. It is coming down the drain of the table. There's no bucket to catch the blood as you would do properly. Instead, it's just running and flowing onto the plastic covered floor. And Dexter looks back at him. And he's just checking on him. He's like, are you okay? And he's, yeah, I'm okay. And he says, well, my work's not done. I'm going to dispose of the body. And Harrison's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. So then Dexter's just finished sawing off the left arm of Kurt. And Harrison's kind of looking pretty stunned. And this is the reality, the gravity of all this is kind of starting to set in a bit. And Dexter lets go of the knife, and the blood just isn't... It's pretty gross. There's little blood smears on the arm and stuff, and he's asking for Harrison to hand him some more garbage bags, and explains that he generally dismembers each person into 9 segments, depending on their size, so that way they're easier to transport for disposal. And with the sounds of the flesh tearing, the bone sawing, the cutting, the smell of the body, the smell of the blood, the sound of the parts of the limbs going into the plastic bags, and the blood starts spilling even closer on the floor towards Harrison. He has to take a step back. He goes in kind of like a little daydream and relives the moment that his mother was murdered, and he kind of comes back and he's withdrawing from the blood, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go get some air, like you'd said. And he goes up top, and he's sitting outside, and he's standing outside. He's just trying to hold back some tears, and he takes, a few deep breaths, and he's trying to just regain his composure. That's a lot to take in. He is a child. He is 16. He's damaged now forever and scarred forever. He's now fucked up. It's not good. It's not good stuff. And so he's just enjoying some nice cold outside air. And then it cuts to us seeing him sitting on some of the hay that had been nearby this door. And Dexter's coming up, and he's, throwing up bag after bag of body part after body part. And he asks Harrison for some assistance to put these body part pieces bagged up into the ATV. They take the bag segments of Kurt to the same place where Dexter disposed of Matt. The sanitation incinerator. Yep. And while they're putting the body segments in one at a time, Harrison asks what's going to happen when people realize Kurt's missing. Like, logical question, right? Like, people are going to eventually notice he's not around. What's going to happen? What do we do? Dexter says, well, Kurt already covered that for us. When he was trying, he rushed home to do the escape. Angela's going to check on his home. She's going to see that everything's been ransacked, that he'd packed up, took all the money from his safe, and dipped out of Dodge. And that's it. Like, end the story. Harrison's looking at him. He's like, you knew he'd run. And Dexter replies, everyone here in Iron Lake's going to think that he fled. Harrison starts to look into the fire where the body segments are burning, and he says, no more women kidnapped and killed. That's right, Dexter affirms. And the dark passenger, he asks. It's quiet, Harrison contently replies after a moment of thought. And the world's a better place for it, Dexter says. That's what he says. And Dexter goes, that's the idea. So he's like, let's go home. And they close the doors to the incinerator, and they take that ATV, and they start heading home. And it's beginning, it's morning hours now, and they're seeing a smoke plume in the direction of their home, and they're like, what is that? And Angela's on scene with the fire department, and they pull up, and they're looking around at the burned down remnants of their cabin, and Audrey runs up and hugs Harrison, thinking he'd been dead. Angela asks where Dexter was. He reminds her that, hey, I took Harrison out to look at the blood moon. He told her that before. He asked her what had happened. She's like, oh, we were kind of hoping you could tell us. And he inner monologues that this must be Kurt's parting shot. And Dexter shakes his head, clueless. She said, I kept calling you and you didn't answer. And he's like, oh, my phone was off because I was, just trying to be more present for Harrison. And she's just none too pleased, just in general, with his answers. And, now that they don't have a home, things kind of suck. And she's there, and Audrey comes up, and she said, she tried to call him, but he gets the phones off, and she asked, like, what time did you leave? And he's like, oh, around 10, and lost track of the time. Audrey's like, hey, well, you could stay with us. Her mom's just super pissed off now because she does not want a serial killer in her house. I wouldn't either. I do not blame her. Ugh. So, what do? You can't. She's in a really bad situation now at this point because he doesn't know that she knows. And so they all start to head off, and they walk into the home, and Audrey's talking about like being hungry and what they're gonna make for breakfast, and it's almost like a normal day for them. And Dexter and Harrison walk in, everything seems kind of normal, and Angela walks in, and as she's walking in, she grabs some mail from her box. There's something in her mailbox, and in the envelope it says, just in capital letters, these words: Jim Lindsay. Then on the second line, killed. And then on the third line, Matt Caldwell. And then inside of the envelope with that letter were titanium screws. She looks towards Dexter and she's watching him smiling with the kids in the kitchen area, and she's furrowing her brows. And that's it. That's where they leave us. Now, we know that titanium doesn't melt. We know there will be a fire investigation. Guess what the fire inspector is going to find in the cabin? Guess what they suspect the fire is? Arson. Why? Revenge on Dexter, of course. Guess what will be used to arrest Dexter? Yes, these are just my predictions. Don't come for me, or come for me. I don't mind. Tell me what you think your predictions are. Let me know. I would love to hear them. But these are mine. So that's going, guess what's going to be used to arrest Dexter? That titanium screw that was used to repair Matt's leg. Because titanium doesn't melt. Now, what does that really mean? Well, guess what has serial numbers? Every medical implant. Anything that's getting put into your body, like knee replacements, hip replacements, rods, things like that, screws, all have like serial ID numbers, and it gets recorded down into your file of like, we put, this one in, this is the model, this is the brand, this is all for record keeping, especially if there's ever a recall. This is really important information. But it also then confirms and ties it to Matt's surgical record, proving that is from Matt's corpse. Because how else could you obtain the screw from his leg from such a serious surgical repair from the boat wreck? So I believe that's going to be the reason that they're going to arrest Dexter. I believe he's going to also make bail. And do you remember that oil tycoon? It was just in a few episodes. Edward Olsen. Where is he? Why introduce a character and not truly utilize him? He was a very poor red herring. Where is he? What's he off doing? There's a greater purpose for that character. I'm thinking he's going to be the next villain for the next season. I had predicted that the father and son would team up, and I predicted that Dexter would get arrested. Now, I'm also going to predict that Dexter is going to die, and Harrison's going to take up the mantle. And his first nemesis will be Edward Olsen. Dexter is going to become Harrison's version of Harry. And New Blood will become the new title of the show. Michael C. Hall had said many years ago that he would never return to the role of Dexter Morgan unless the role was significantly different than it had been before. And Dexter being reunited with his son definitely was a bit different. This Jim Lindsay role has been definitely a bit different. But not all too different. What would be significantly different? Being a ghost that is really just a figment of someone else's imagination that's guiding and giving advice. That's a whole different type of role to play. It's very actually different than what he had been doing as Dexter Morgan. So that kind of also affirms to me that's with my prediction of what's going to happen for our season finale. Now, I want to know what you guys think is going to happen on Sunday night's season finale of Dexter New Blood. You've got to tell me in the comments. You got to let me know. Send me a DM, whatever. I want to know what you think is going to happen. Have you made other predictions like this? Have any of them come true? Let me know what they are. This was my most favorite episode so far. It was very enjoyable, thrilling. I love the 3 times that they broke the fourth wall. It was just really fun. It was much more thrilling and different than any other Dexter episode has ever been so far. And I'm excited and yet also very sad about Sunday's episode. I'm sad because I'm pretty certain Dexter's going to die, and I'm going to probably cry because he's like one of my favorite characters, and that really sucks. I've gotten attached to him. He's a serial killer. Why the hell am I gonna cry for a serial killer? What is wrong with me? um, but that is where I think they're going. You let me know what you think they're going to do for their direction. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I love you so much. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome, come on in. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing? I'm Pirate Blaze, your host here of PYCAST. You can find me Tuesdays. I know today's not Tuesday, but you can, again, catch the earlier part of this. But you can find me Tuesdays with PYCAST, my podcast video stream live every Tuesday here on Twitch. Well, yes, I am here. But Tuesdays and Thursday nights, I will also do gaming here on Twitch. The rest of the days of the week, I'm over on YouTube. Now, you can find me when I'm not live by clicking on my banner, and you can find all of my social medias there. You can also find a link taking you right to my YouTube channel. So you can subscribe and get the notifications if you ring the little bell over there on YouTube, and they'll tell you when I go live. I don't have any dead set times yet. Hopefully, I can come up with some dead set ones pretty soon here in the near future. As far as when I will be streaming exactly here on Twitch, you're going to want to give me a follow. Tap that little heart so that way they can give you the notification of when I'm live. Hopefully things will settle down here in 2022. It's been better already in these handful of days, while also being incredibly difficult. So just take it all in and take a deep breath. Take it easy. Get some water. Tomorrow's another day. So even if we started the year in a not so great position, we got a whole rest of the year to go. We've got 12 new chapters and over 300 new chances. So let's make the best of them. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you guys on the next one. You have a good night.